Love's Philosophy by Percy Bysshe Shelley was originally published in the December 22nd, 1819 edition of The Indicator, and later included in Posthumous Poems, edited by his wife, the novelist Mary Shelley. In this short lyric, Shelley draws on nature to explore the universal interconnectedness of all things, weaving together the physical and emotional. The speaker passionately argues that just as elements of the natural world, rivers to oceans, mountains to sky, come together in harmony, so too should human beings unite in love and intimacy. As a romantic poet, Shelley was influenced by the idea that nature was a source of divine truth and inspiration. He employs natural imagery and sensual language to suggest that physical union between humans is natural and, by extension, good. This argument is grounded in a rhetorical tactic known as the naturalistic fallacy, as George Edward Moore describes in Principia Ethica in 1922. A thing is good because it is natural, or bad because it is unnatural. However, it could be argued that this reasoning is flawed. Our human consciousness and moral reasoning separate us from the natural world, meaning how we act is not necessarily governed by nature's example. Shelley, as a visionary and prophet, might have countered this with the belief that his connection to nature allowed him to access universal truths that transcended human-made morality, and through his poetry he hoped to inspire social and spiritual change. The poem is 16 lines long, comprising 2 stanzas of 8 lines each. Each stanza comprises 2 quatrains with an A, B, C, D, C, D rhyme scheme. Shelley largely employs syllabic rhyme, where the final unstressed syllables sound the same, e.g. river and ever, and heaven and forgiven, and double, also known as feminine rhyme, where the rhyme is between stressed syllables followed by one or more unstressed syllables, e.g. ocean and emotion, and single and mingle, giving the poem a soft, lilting quality. At the end of both stanzas, Shelley uses single or masculine rhyme, e.g. divine and thine and earth and worth, where the rhyme falls on the final stressed syllable. This changes the tone to make it feel much more forceful. Is this to make it more persuasive, or is his frustration beginning to show? Shelley also uses other sound patterning techniques such as alliteration, e.g. high heaven, sibilance, e.g. and the sunlight clasps the earth and the moonbeams kiss the sea, and assonance, e.g. work, worth, to give the poem added cohesion and musicality. In the Harvard manuscript book, published in 1820, the poem is headed an anacreontic. Modern anacreontics are short, lyrical pieces celebrating love, written in the style of the Greek poet Anacreon. They usually have 8 syllables per line, but we will see that Shelley does not stick to this convention. Also, rather than a celebration of love, Shelley's preoccupation is unrequited or unreturned love of a physical rather than of a romantic nature. The poem has a bass meter of trochaic tetrameter, dum-dee, 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 although there are variations throughout, with line lengths ranging from 5 to 11 syllables. Although modern anacreontics are supposed to have 8 syllables per line, Shelley varies line length to modulate the rhythm, creating a more dynamic and flowing effect. For example, the meter of some lines, such as lines 1, 3 and 12, is iambic, dum, rather than trochaic, dum-dee, creating a natural ebb and flow. This fluidity is enhanced by Shelley's use of enjambment, where sentences or phrases spill over into the next line, echoing the seamless connections he observes in nature. For example, the enjambment between the fountains mingle with the river and the rivers with the ocean reflects the unbroken unity he celebrates. However, this flowing rhythm is counterbalanced by truncated lines, e.g. lines 4, 8, 12 and 16, which abruptly break the momentum, emphasizing key ideas or moments of frustration. This contrast between flow and interruption may reflect Shelley's inner conflict. While he celebrates unity in nature, his lover's refusal to consummate their relationship disrupts this harmony. The poem's refusal to fully conform to rhythmic conventions could therefore symbolize the tension between his idealized vision of love and the reality of rejection. Shelley's diction in Love's Philosophy is carefully chosen to evoke both natural harmony and emotional persuasion. He employs simple, accessible language that mirrors the universality of the natural imagery he invokes, such as fountains, rivers, and mountains. This straightforward vocabulary reinforces the idea that his arguments are rooted in undeniable natural laws. His choice of words, however, also carries a subtle sense of intimacy and yearning with terms like clasp, kiss, and mingle, suggesting physical and emotional closeness. Furthermore, Shelley's diction has a persuasive quality as he uses rhetorical questions, "Why not I with thine?" and imperatives, "See the mountains kiss high heaven," to subtly pressure the listener into accepting his viewpoint. The repetition of relational and unifying verbs like mix, mingle, and kiss emphasizes the inevitability of connection, aligning his desires with the natural world's supposed order. In this way, Shelley's diction not only supports his argument, but also creates a tone that oscillates or goes back and forth between earnest passion and calculated persuasion. The title Love's Philosophy personifies love, suggesting it has its own set of beliefs, principles, or even rules about how it should be enacted or followed. This positions love not just as an abstract emotion, but as a force with agency, one that governs relationships and interactions. By framing the poem around this idea, Shelley creates a dynamic where the speaker, in addressing his mistress, presents love's philosophy as a set of natural laws that justify their physical union. There is, however, a subtle implication that there are three parties involved in this relationship: the speaker, his mistress, and love itself. In this triangular dynamic, love's authority seems to override the mistress's free will, as the speaker appeals to love's rules as an incontestable truth, rather than respecting her autonomy. This raises questions about whether the speaker's arguments are persuasive or manipulative, cloaking his desires in the guise of universal laws. Shelley begins the poem with the assertion that the fountains mingle with the river and the rivers with the ocean. The smallest elements are connected to the largest like a chain. Everything is part of the same plan. His use of polyptoton with the repetition of river from the end of the first line and rivers at the beginning of the second, and enjambment or lack of punctuation, enhance the idea of continuity by giving these lines a sense of movement, echoing the flow of the water. The rhythm of the first line, "The fountains mingle with the river," is described as iambic tetrameter hypercatalectic, di-dum, 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 di-dum-di, where there is an extra unstressed syllable at the end of the line. The second line is written in the poem's base meter of trochaic tetrameter, "and the rivers with the ocean," dum-dee, 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 so that it too ends on an unstressed syllable. This falling rhythm gives this part of the poem a smooth, lyrical quality. The use of the verb mingle from a semantic field of physical union evokes water's natural characteristic, which is to flow and merge. It is an image not only of a natural life force, but also of cleanliness. The implication is that there is goodness and purity in this physical union. The first stanza also contains religious imagery, although Shelley was an avowed atheist. Despite shunning organised religion, Shelley embraced the romantic fascination with pantheism, believing that nature was a living entity imbued with a divine, unifying spirit. This unseen power, as he describes in his poem Hymn to Intellectual Beauty, runs through everything, connecting all aspects of existence in harmony. In Love's Philosophy, Shelley uses personification to bring the natural world alive and to endow it with conscious intentions. Verbs such as mingle, mix, and meet and mingle evoke human intimacy, suggesting that this unifying force compels all things to connect. The language of human relationships makes this connectedness seem stronger and more emotionally charged. He also extensively alliterates sounds in this first stanza. These soft, nasal sounds make the poem mellifluous or soothing and mellow, enhancing its persuasive and sensual tone. The murmuring quality of the alliteration deepens the feeling of intimacy, reflecting Shelley's belief in the universal, harmonious force that binds all things together. In line 3, Shelley refers to the winds of heaven. Rather than refer to the sky or the air, his metaphor instead makes it appear sacred and pure, and its mixing therefore not sinful. This is further enhanced with the following shorter line, with a sweet emotion. This mixing, he implies, is not just physical, but also generates beautiful and tender feelings, evoked by the adjective sweet. We can infer that such a physical union leads to an intense spiritual union that is not only permissible, but is actively desired. His next point leads with the assertion, nothing in the world is single. This end-stopping of a single line, pausing the rhythm which has been flowing up to this point, and the use of the absolute nothing, intensifies his conviction that pairs are the natural state. His further assertion that all things by a law divine in one spirit meet and mingle leads him to end the first stanza abruptly with a rhetorical question, why not I with thine? He's not asking her to justify her refusal, but he's instead saying that her refusal is unreasonable. If everything in the natural world is compelled to be physically united in one spirit, why should he not be physically united with her? This implies that his mistress's refusal of him is an offence to law divine, and the fact that she is imposing the state of being physically single on the two of them means that she is going against the natural and therefore sacred order created by the unseen power. The lyrical tone and rhythm is abruptly brought to a halt, as this final line is truncated or shortened. It is now trochaic trimeter catalectic, dum-dee-dum-dee-dum. It's now only 5 syllables long and has a stressed ending. Why not I with thine? Note that each word is a monosyllable, the bluntness of which intensifies the speaker's sense of frustration, as he challenges her to defend what he sees as her frigidity. The truncated line also gives the stanza a sense of closure. Notice also the circular structure of this stanza where the verb in the first line, mingle, is repeated at the end to highlight the unity of nature and adding to the persuasive tone of the poem. The forcefulness of the speaker's tone intensifies at the beginning of the second stanza, as it opens with the imperative, See the mountains kiss high heaven and the waves clasp one another, as he directs her attention to other relationships in the natural world. His choice of verbs also becomes more overtly concerned with the realm of sexual intimacy, e.g. kiss and clasp, now that the connection between the natural world and his ulterior motive has been made. Note also the extensive use of sound patterning here, with the alliterated, aspirated sound in high heaven, which evokes the mingling of breaths in a kiss, and sibilance, which gives this stanza a sensually harmonious sound, as well as polysyndeton, as Shelley uses cataloguing or listing to enhance the poem's sense of relentlessness as he comes up with one example after another. In lines 11 and 12, Shelley personifies flowers by alluding to those of the same type as being sister and brother. No family relationship is being implied here. Whilst this is clearly a false relationship, as most plants have flowers with both male and female parts, Shelley takes advantage of this rhetorical device to imply a clearer parallel between the natural world and the pair of lovers. The use of the word disdained can be inferred as a reflection of how he feels he has been treated by her, as though her refusal is motivated by contempt, as he is not worthy of her consideration. The comparative shortness of this line and the change from trochaic to iambic rhythm enhances his disapproval of her wrongdoing. The fact that no sister flower would be forgiven for this act suggests that what is actually sinful is her refusal, not the act itself. The tone softens in the final quatrain, however, as Shelley then reverts to images of sunlight, a masculine symbol, clasping the earth, and moonbeams, a feminine symbol, kissing the sea, to evoke reciprocal acts of physical love. As in the first stanza, the final line is a rhetorical question, using the same metrical structure and repetition of the verb from the first line of the stanza. What is all this sweet work worth, if thou kiss not me? Once again, the line is trochaic trimeter catalectic, dum-dee-dum-dee-dum, and each word is a monosyllable. Note the alliteration and assonance of work worth, which highlights the speaker's sense of futility and frustration. The idea in this final line is hyperbolic, as the speaker puts an immense amount of pressure on his mistress. His assertion that the laws upholding the harmony of nature are worth absolutely nothing if she breaks them by not giving him a kiss is somewhat melodramatic. In conclusion, Percy Bysshe Shelley's love's philosophy uses the natural world as a metaphor for human relationships, suggesting that intimacy and connection are as natural as the forces of nature itself. Through personification, sensual imagery, and the appeal to nature's harmony, Shelley presents a persuasive argument for love as an intrinsic and universal force. While this argument relies on the naturalistic fallacy, the poem's beauty lies in its celebration of love's potential to transcend societal boundaries, aligning with Shelley's romantic ideals of nature, freedom, and the transformative power of imagination. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments section below, and I'll do my best to answer them. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more videos on English language topics and exam techniques and English literature texts.